I did not feel heroic when the engines cut. I felt sick. The shaking stopped first. Then the pressure eased like someone loosening a fist around my chest. My stomach tried to climb into my throat and stay there. Training said this part would pass. Training said a lot of things. I let go of the handrail by accident and drifted. No up, no down. My body forgot which way it was supposed to weigh. Sweat lifted off my skin in little cold beads and hung in front of my face until I wiped them away. My heart was loud inside my helmet. First time in orbit. 6 months of survival classes, years of simulators. All of it meant nothing when my feet didn't belong to the floor anymore. I am not special. I was an engineer before this. Mechanical systems, pressure vessels, failure analysis. I fixed other people's mistakes and learned how to explain them without blame. That's how I got noticed. I didn't panic when things broke. I documented, I adapted, I shut up and worked. They wanted that up here. I earned my seat the slow way. School, military service. 2 programs that cut half the class by the end. Medical exams where they stared at your brain scans longer than your face. I signed papers agreeing I might die quietly and far from home. I meant it when I signed. I still do. There are 5 of us aboard. Commander Ruiz runs the station like a machine. Everything logged, everything timed. She speaks softly and expects you to listen the first time. Mikhail handles propulsion and navigation. Big hands, gentle with equipment. Prays before maintenance. Doesn't talk about it. Sato is medical and biology. Precise, calm, always watching. The kind of person who notices what you don't. Elena Park handles station maintenance and lab hardware. Power runs, tools, seals, anything that breaks when it shouldn't. Quiet, methodical. Already at work when the rest of us float past. Then there's me. Systems support. Extra hands. Redundancy. The station smells like metal and recycled air. Warm plastic. Ozone when something powers up too fast. You learn the smell of safe and the smell of wrong. We floated through the first checks. Solar arrays, CO2 scrubbers, water reclamation, all green. Routine work in an unreal place. Earth rolled beneath us in silence. Blue, white, perfect. I pressed my face to the cupola glass longer than I should have. It looked peaceful enough to forgive. We ate our first meal strapped in, tortillas in sealed packs. No crumbs allowed. Ruiz told a joke I'd heard in training. We laughed anyway. Sound carries differently up here. Laughter feels smaller. It was after the second orbit that Sato mentioned the fever. Mikhail had been quiet all morning. Missed a checklist step, bumped into a panel, and didn't apologize. When Sato took his vitals, his temperature was elevated. Not dangerous, just wrong. Adaptation syndrome, Ruiz said. Space flu, the body arguing with the math. Drink water. Rest. Monitor. Mikhail nodded and smiled too fast. Sweat floated off his temples and dotted the wall like spilled mercury. I watched the droplets drift and stick. I wiped them away with a cloth and sealed it. Habit. Containment. We logged it. We moved on. The station creaked as it always does, metal expanding and contracting as we crossed from night into day every 90 minutes. The sound used to bother me in simulations. Now it felt like breathing. Earth turned beneath us again. City lights came on like circuitry, lines and clusters. The illusion of order. I tried to find my home. I failed. Everything looks small from up here. I thought about my family, about the launch wave, about the last normal meal. Those thoughts felt far away already, like they belonged to someone else. Mikhail vomited during a routine check. Zero gravity makes a mess of everything. Sato and I caught it with bags before it spread. Ruiz called a pause. More water, electrolytes, rest. Still no alarms, still green. By the end of the shift, Mikhail's hands were shaking. He laughed it off, said he hadn't slept, said his head hurt. Sato didn't argue, just watched him a little longer than before. I secured myself near the cupola for my rest period. Straps across my shoulders, feet hooked where feet don't need to be. Earth filled the window, clouds casting shadows over oceans, storms spiraling like fingerprints. From up here, nothing looked wrong. I closed my eyes and let the station carry me forward. I woke to the sound of the station chiming for a scheduled comm window. The light was wrong. Not the sunlight. The glow from Earth. It flickered through the cupola like a bad connection. I unhooked myself and drifted closer, rubbing sleep from my eyes. Clouds slid by. Then darkness. Then lights again. Not the smooth sweep I'd seen before. Uneven. Patchy. Ruiz was already at the console when I got there. Her voice was calm but clipped. Houston, ISS. Do you copy? Static answered her. Not the usual hiss. A rougher sound, broken, like something chewing on the signal. She tried again. Different channel, same result. The feed snapped on without warning. A news anchor filled the display. Her hair was perfect. Her smile wasn't. The chyron at the bottom scrolled too fast to read cleanly. Words like unrest and isolated incidents repeated in different orders. Behind her, something crashed. She flinched, but kept talking. Authorities are urging calm while emergency services respond to multiple reports of... The camera shook. Someone off-screen shouted. The anchor turned her head just slightly, like she didn't want to look. The feed cut to a wide shot of a street. People running, no pattern, no direction. One of them fell and didn't get back up. The signal froze. Audio stuttered. Then it was gone. Ruiz didn't speak. She just logged the loss and switched channels. Another broadcast. Different country, different language. Same noise behind the voice. Same look in the eyes. This one lasted longer. Long enough to see a man rush the frame and get dragged down by 3 others. The camera dropped. We watched shoes and pavement while someone screamed close to the mic. Sato muted it. My comm panel lit up with a missed call alert. Personal channel. I hadn't authorized one. I opened it anyway. My brother's face appeared. Pixelated, delayed. He was breathing hard, sirens somewhere behind him. "Hey," he said. Or maybe he'd said it seconds ago. "I don't know if this is going to..." The video jumped. His eyes flicked off screen. He opened his mouth again. "Listen, if Mom..." The call dropped. I tried to reconnect. Nothing. The system cued the attempt and moved on without asking me. Mikhail was staring at his own panel. He hadn't touched it yet. When he did, his fingers missed the button the first time. A woman's voice came through his speaker, crying, saying his name over and over. The audio lag made it echo like there were two of her. "I locked the door," she said. "I did what you said. They're outside. They're..." Something hit her door. The camera swung. We saw the inside of an apartment. Furniture pushed up wrong. Blood on the wall that hadn't been there a second ago. The call ended on its own. No one moved. Sato's panel chimed next. She didn't answer right away. When she did, it was audio only. A child's voice, calm, asking where she was, asking why everyone was running at school, asking if it was a drill. Sato closed her eyes. She said the child's name once, softly. The line went dead before the child replied. Ruiz didn't have a call waiting. She didn't check. She was busy pulling data streams, her jaw tight. "Mission Control is rerouting," she said, or trying to. Her console filled with text. Error messages stacked faster than she could clear them. Telemetry came in bursts, then gaps, then bursts again. We watched Earth roll by beneath us. The Terminator line crept across continents, but the lights didn't come on the way they should have. Entire sections stayed dark. Others pulsed erratically. Fires bloomed in clusters, orange against black, too big to be single buildings. The station crossed over an ocean, then land again. Smoke smeared the atmosphere in places, thick enough to see from orbit. Another news feed broke through. No anchor this time. Just a fixed camera overlooking a city square. Military vehicles burned where they'd been abandoned. Bodies lay where they'd fallen. Some of them moved. Not much. Just enough to notice. The camera kept recording until someone slammed into it hard enough to knock it sideways. We stared at a stone wall while wet sounds filled the audio channel. Ruiz shut it off. The station chimed again. This time it wasn't a scheduled window. It was a system notification. Ground control link lost. Automated operations engaged. Life support indicators stayed green. Power stable. Orbit nominal. The station didn't care what was happening below as long as the math still worked. "Houston," Ruiz said again. Her voice cracked this time. Just once. "ISS calling. Do you copy?" Only static answered. Mikhail pushed off the wall too hard and spun. I caught him by the arm. His skin was hot through the fabric. His eyes weren't focusing on me. "I need to lie down," he said. "Just for a minute." Sato nodded and guided him toward the sleeping module. She didn't let go until he was strapped in. We did another orbit. More lights went out. No more personal calls came through. The queue cleared itself with a soft tone, like an apology. Ruiz floated in front of the cupola and stared at Earth. Not at any one place, just at the whole thing. "We're on our own," she said. No one argued. The station carried us forward, silent and intact, while the world beneath us came apart. We were still moving through checks when Mikhail screamed. Not a nightmare sound, not confused. It was sharp and focused, like pain had found its target. The sound cut through the station and didn't fade. I was already moving, already pushing toward the crew quarters before the echo finished bouncing through the module. Sato was already there. Mikhail was strapped in, thrashing against the restraints hard enough to make the frame rattle. His skin was gray now, not pale. Gray. Sweat floated off him in sheets, coating the walls and drifting back into his face. His eyes rolled without settling. "Hold him," Sato said. I grabbed the restraint straps to keep them from tearing loose. Mikhail bucked again. Stronger than before. Too strong. His breathing turned wet, like he was drowning on dry land. "Temperature's spiking," Sato said. "Heart rate. This doesn't make sense." Ruiz floated in behind us, hand already on the alarm panel. She stopped when Mikhail went still. For half a second I thought he'd died. Then his eyes locked open. No confusion, no recognition. Just focus. His jaw clenched so hard I heard teeth crack. He inhaled once, long, controlled. Then he lunged. The restraint snapped. Plastic buckles sheared clean off and drifted away. Mikhail surged forward, slamming into me chest first. The impact knocked the air out of my lungs. We spun together, bodies tangling, no floor to brace against. He went for my face. I twisted my head just enough that his teeth scraped my cheek instead of sinking in. The pressure was unreal, like a vice closing. I shoved at his shoulders, but he didn't react. No flinch, no pain response. Ruiz hit the alarm. The station erupted in noise. Red lights strobed. A containment warning scrolled across the nearest panel. Sato grabbed a handhold and kicked off, slamming her elbow into Mikhail's temple. Once. Twice. He didn't even blink. He snapped his head toward her and reached. I shoved him away, and he drifted, uncontrolled, spinning end over end. Blood floated from my cheek in a thin ribbon, breaking into red beads. "Mouth!" Ruiz shouted. "Watch his mouth!" Mikhail caught a railing and stopped himself. His movements were wrong now. Too deliberate. His lips pulled back, and his jaw tightened, teeth bared without expression. He launched himself at Ruiz. She raised her arm too late. His teeth sank into her forearm through the fabric. I heard it, felt it through the air. A dull crunch, then a tearing pull. Ruiz didn't scream. She just kicked off and drove her boots into his chest, ripping free. Blood sprayed and bloomed in a red cloud that drifted toward the ventilation intake. "Seal the module," she said, voice already strained. "Now!" Sato slammed the hatch controls. The door slid shut just as Mikhail hit it from the other side. The impact reverberated through the frame. He didn't stop. He kept hitting it again and again, using his whole body. The hatch held, barely. Ruiz floated backward, clutching her arm. Blood leaked between her fingers and formed a halo around her elbow. "It's a bite," she said. Flat. No denial. "It's a bite." Sato grabbed a medical kit and anchored Ruiz against the wall. She cut the sleeve away. The wound was deep, teeth marks clear, already swelling. The banging stopped. We all froze. A shadow crossed the hatch window. Mikhail's face pressed against the glass. His eyes were milky now, unfocused, but intent. He opened his mouth and dragged his teeth across the window, leaving a smear of blood and saliva. Then he pushed off and disappeared down the corridor. "He's loose," I said. "I know," Ruiz said. The station chimed again. Secondary alarms, life support rerouting, contamination protocols engaging. The air began to cycle faster, pulling the blood mist away, but spreading the smell everywhere. Copper, rot, ozone. We moved, no running, no footsteps, just controlled pushes from handhold to handhold, trying not to overshoot. The station felt smaller than it ever had. Every corridor a funnel. Every corner a blind spot. We found him near the lab module. He was feeding. What was left of Elena Park drifted nearby, her suit torn open, her body slack. Mikhail had his hands buried in her chest cavity, fingers working with purpose, pulling free what he wanted. Blood floated around him in thick clots. Sato retched. The vomit ballooned out of her mouth and drifted away. She wiped her face and kept moving. Mikhail turned toward us slowly. His mouth was red. His teeth were pink. Ruiz pushed past us. She took a maintenance wrench from the wall. Heavy. Solid. She didn't hesitate. She struck him in the side of the head. The impact turned him sideways but didn't stop him. He snapped at her again. Missed by inches. I grabbed a handhold and launched myself at him, shoulder first. We collided hard. The wrench floated away. Mikhail clawed at my suit, tearing fabric. His fingers were slick and strong. "Head," Ruiz said. "It has to be the head." I wrapped my arm around his neck and pulled him toward the bulkhead. He thrashed, biting at empty air. I slammed his head into the metal wall. Once. Twice. The third time I felt something give. He kept moving. I hit him again. Harder. The fourth strike cracked his skull. Blood and bone fragments burst outward and drifted like shrapnel. The fifth caved it in. His body went limp immediately. We floated there, breathing hard, surrounded by what was left of him. No one spoke. Ruiz drifted away first, toward the hatch. She sealed herself inside the small isolation compartment without looking back. The isolation hatch sealed with a dull mechanical thud. No echo, just finality. Ruiz anchored herself inside without being told. She didn't ask for restraints. She wrapped her good arm through the handholds and locked her boots into the floor plates. Her bitten arm floated slightly away from her body, swollen, skin pulled tight and dark around the punctures. "Timer started," she said. Calm. Professional. "Log everything." Sato drifted in front of the glass, tablet in hand. Her face stayed neutral, but her breathing was shallow. She was already behind schedule, already losing ground. I pulled myself to the wall panel and brought up the internal cameras. Multiple angles inside the compartment. No blind spots, no excuses. Ruiz watched me do it. "Sedation is not authorized," she said. "We don't know enough." "You're infected," I said. "I'm aware," she replied. "I'm also still the commander." Sato didn't look at either of us. Her vitals are elevated, but she's stable. For now. "For now," I said. Minutes passed. The station crossed from night into day. Light slid across Ruiz's face in slow bands. Sweat floated off her forehead and stuck to the glass in trembling spheres. Her breathing changed first. Longer inhales, short, sharp exhales through clenched teeth. "Muscle spasms starting," she said. "Hands, jaw." Sato typed faster. "Try to stay still." Ruiz laughed once. It came out wrong. Too sharp. Too short. "Not voluntary," she said. A sound followed. Teeth grinding, slow, deliberate. I felt it in my jaw like sympathy pain. Sato swallowed. "I can sedate her. Low dose, buy time." "And then what?" I asked. She hesitated. That was the answer. Ruiz's fingers curled, uncurled, curled again. Tendons stood out under her skin like cables under strain. Ruiz looked past us, not at the glass, but at the station beyond it. "If I stop responding," she said, "you vent this compartment. No confirmation, no debate." Sato shook her head. "We can still try." Ruiz cut her off. "That is the protocol now." The sounds got worse. A low growl slipped out of her throat. Not loud, not dramatic. Like air being forced through something that wasn't shaped for it anymore. Sato drifted closer to the glass. Too close. She was watching the numbers instead of the woman. "Sato," I said. "She's still conscious," Sato said. "Still reasoning." Ruiz's head jerked sideways. Hard enough that her helmet rang against the wall. She sucked in air through her teeth and smiled despite herself. "That wasn't me," she said. I brought up the vent controls on my panel. Highlighted. Ready. Ruiz noticed. "If I turn," she said, "you vent this compartment immediately. Don't wait for confirmation." Sato shook her head. "No, there has to be." Ruiz slammed her head back again. Harder this time. Blood misted from her split lip and drifted toward the ceiling. "There isn't," Ruiz snapped. "You know that." The grinding turned into snapping. Her jaw worked open and shut like she was testing it. Saliva strung between her teeth and floated away in thin threads. Sato reached out and touched the glass. "Stay with me," she said. "Just stay." I grabbed her wrist and pulled her back. The mistake came from silence. A soft alert chimed on my panel. Yellow. Minor airflow variance near the isolation module. Within tolerance. Automatically compensated. I cleared it without thinking. Ruiz screamed. Not pain, rage. Pure and focused. She threw herself against the restraints over and over, hard enough that the frame flexed. Bolts creaked. One sheared loose and spun away. Her eyes locked onto us through the glass, milky at the edges now, focused in the center. "Vent!" she snarled, the word barely human. Sato froze. Ruiz lunged again. Her head struck the glass with a sound like a dropped tool. A fracture spidered outward from the point of impact. Red alarms flooded my display. Containment failure imminent. I didn't look at Sato. I hit the vent command. The compartment pressure dropped hard and fast, then stuttered. Alarms howled. Yellow stacked into orange. System safeties tripped in rapid succession. Depressurization aborted. Hardware safety lock engaged. Air tore loose for a split second. Blood, spit, and loose debris followed it out in a violent blur. Ruiz's body snapped hard against the restraints. Her back arched. Her mouth opened wide. She screamed. Then the sound cut off. Not clean, not final, just gone. The pressure equalized abruptly. Too fast. The compartment shuddered as systems fought each other and lost. Frost bloomed across the inside of the glass in jagged veins where breath had been. Cracks spread from the earlier impact point, but stopped short of full failure. Containment compromised. Integrity holding. Ruiz hung limp in the restraints. Her chest didn't move. Her head was angled wrong. Jaw slack. Eyes half open and milky, unfocused. Then her fingers twitched. Once. Sato made a sound I hadn't heard before. Small. Broken. I know, I said. We waited. No response. No speech. No command voice. Just the slow, uneven pull of her body against the restraints as the station adjusted around her. The alarms wound down to a constant yellow pulse. Power rerouted. Life support compensated. The station didn't move on. It strained. Sato floated in place, hands pressed to her helmet, breathing too fast. "The vent didn't complete," she said. "Safeties shut it down." Ruiz's head jerked once. Hard. The restraints creaked. We backed away from the glass. I logged the event. Quarantine compromised. Subject non-responsive. Containment holding. Quarantine didn't solve the problem. It made it worse. The station didn't sleep. It never does. But after Ruiz went quiet, it sounded like it was listening. I stayed on the cameras. Sato stayed strapped near the hatch. Tablet forgotten in her lap. The isolation compartment lights flickered between standby and emergency amber. One camera was dead. Another showed Ruiz in pieces, not physically, functionally. Her head tilted at an angle that kept changing by degrees, like her neck couldn't decide where center was anymore. She stopped breathing, then started again. Short pulls, wet, wrong rhythm. "She's not cycling oxygen," Sato said. "She shouldn't be able to." Ruiz slammed into the glass. Not thrashing, not random. A full body push, boots first, shoulders tucked. The impact rang through the module. The crack in the glass spread another finger outward. The station chimed. Structural stress warning. Yellow again. "She's testing it," I said. As if she understood the words, Ruiz changed tactics. She twisted sideways and drove her head into the same spot. Once, twice, teeth bared, jaw snapping. Blood floated from her mouth and smeared across the inside of the glass. Sato unstrapped and pushed toward me. "We have to end this now." "I know." I pulled the maintenance locker open and grabbed the heaviest tool I could anchor with. A torque wrench, long and solid. Not meant for this. None of them are. Ruiz hit the glass again. The crack jumped. I keyed the intercom. "Ruiz." Her head snapped toward the speaker. Her eyes were fully gone now. Milky. Fixed. She lunged again, harder than before. The compartment seal alarm screamed. "She's going to breach," Sato said. "No," I said. "She already has." The glass spiderwebbed and bowed inward. A seal at the lower edge tore loose with a sound like ripping fabric. Air screamed through the gap, dragging blood and debris with it. The compartment began to decompress unevenly, pressure hammering the walls. The hatch controls flashed red, unresponsive. Ruiz forced her arm through the opening. The bone bent the wrong way at the wrist. Skin split. She didn't slow down. Sato screamed and kicked off the wall. I caught her harness and yanked her back just as Ruiz's hand clawed through the breach, fingers snapping at empty air. We pushed together hard, slamming the emergency shutter down. It jammed halfway, metal screaming as it ground against Ruiz's arm. She bit herself free. The arm tore off at the elbow. Blood burst out in a thick cloud and vanished into the airflow. Ruiz didn't react. She drove her shoulder into the opening and ripped it wider. The compartment failed. She came out fast. Zero gravity made it worse. She launched herself straight at us, using the recoil from the rupture. I barely had time to brace before she hit me chest first. The impact knocked the tool from my hand and sent us spinning. Her mouth was open. Her teeth snapped shut inches from my throat. I screamed and drove my knee into her torso. Felt ribs give. She didn't slow. Sato kicked off the wall and slammed into Ruiz's side, knocking her loose. We separated, all three of us tumbling in different directions, blood and saliva drifting between us. "Head!" I shouted. "It's the only—" Ruiz caught a handhold and stopped herself. Her movements were fast now, efficient. She launched again, straight for Sato. Her scream cut short as her teeth closed on her shoulder. The impact spun them both. I reached the wall and tore the emergency wrench free. No time to aim. I pushed off and met Ruiz mid-air. The wrench connected with her skull. The sound was dull, like hitting meat wrapped around stone. She snapped back and came forward again. I hit her a second time, harder. The wrench bit into bone. Blood sprayed and floated in a red fan. She still moved. We slammed into a power conduit. The housing cracked. Sparks burst out and danced through the air like fireflies. The station groaned. A deep, unhappy sound. Sato screamed my name. I hit Ruiz again. And again. I felt the skull give, under the wrench. Bone collapsed. Brain matter spilled out and drifted in soft gray clumps. Ruiz went limp instantly. Her body floated past me, boneless now, turning slowly. The station alarms escalated. Red this time. Power bus fault. Attitude control degraded. The lights dimmed, then flared back on. Orientation shifted. The station rolled a few degrees off axis and kept drifting. Sato grabbed a handhold and vomited into her helmet. I anchored myself and tore the wrench free from Ruiz's ruined head. Sato's breathing hitched as she clutched her shoulder. Blood leaked from the bite and floated in fat drops. Ruiz's body bumped the wall and came to rest, headless and leaking against the bulkhead. I sealed the isolation compartment manually. It didn't matter anymore. Half the seals were gone. I pulled up diagnostics. Bad news stacked fast. Power routing unstable. Attitude thrusters offline on one axis. The station was still in orbit, but it wasn't steady anymore. Sato floated beside me, shaking. "Is she?" "Yes," I said. "She's done." We watched Ruiz drift. 2 of us left now. And the station was bleeding with us. I floated at the systems panel and watched the numbers slip. Not collapse. Slip. Power rerouted through backups that weren't meant to run this long. Response delays crept in. Gyros lagged. Every correction came a fraction of a second late. Sato drifted up beside me. Blood had dried dark on the shoulder of her suit. She hadn't sealed it properly. Either she hadn't noticed, or she didn't care. "Status," she said. "Habitable," I said. "For now." The station rolled a few degrees. Slow enough to track. Fast enough to make my stomach twist a beat behind my eyes. The stars outside didn't hold still anymore. They slid. Life support stayed green, but just. CO2 scrubbers cycling harder than baseline. Temperature regulation overshooting and compensating back the other way. Hot, then cold. The kind of problems that don't kill you outright. They just grind you down. Sato pushed off toward the maintenance bay. "We can stabilize attitude. We can try." We split up. We shouldn't have. But there wasn't time to argue about good decisions anymore. I pulled panels and ran checks. Ruiz would have chewed me out for touching without clearance. Half the commands took. Half lagged or didn't respond at all. The station didn't care who was in charge now. It cared about math. Another roll. Harder. I clipped a bulkhead shoulder first. Pain flared and faded. The torn sleeve from earlier caught on a handhold and ripped further. Fibers floated loose and stuck to the wall. "Sato," I said. "I feel it," she replied. Her voice was tighter than before. She was buried in the avionics rack, tools drifting around her like wreckage. One hand moved slower than the other. She snapped a connector in place and waited. Nothing. "That should have..." She stopped herself. We regrouped near the central corridor. The station rotated again, enough that the floor panels no longer lined up with my sense of down. "This isn't a cascade," I said. "It's a bleed." She nodded. No single failure, just damage stacking, which meant no clean fix. We tried anyway. Dumped non-essential loads, shut down experiments that had been running since before launch. The station got quieter, smaller, still wrong. Sato braced herself against a rail and breathed through her mouth. Sweat floated off her face in small beads. Her pupils were too wide. "Get secured before you lose control," I said. "In a minute." She said it again, 10 seconds later, then didn't move. The roll slowed, didn't stop. "There's no fix here," she said finally. "No," I agreed. "Not with what we have." Silence settled in. No new alarms. Just the low hum of systems doing what they could. "How long?" she asked. I ran the numbers again. Slower this time. No optimism. Hours if something else gives. Days if we're lucky. She nodded once. No reaction. Just acceptance. We both thought about the same thing without saying it. The escape capsule. It wasn't a plan. It was hardware. Bolted in place. Waiting. I pulled its status up. Green across most of the board. 1 amber. Same as before. Thermal control degraded but within limits. Guidance inertial only. Guidance is inertial only. Heat shielding intact. Propulsion nominal. It'll make re-entry, I said. Short term. For 1, she said. Yes. She pushed off toward it before I finished speaking. Fast. Too fast. "Sato," I said. She ignored me and keyed in the first steps of the checklist. Her hands shook now. Not fatigue. Something else. "We don't have time," she said. "Prep takes longer than you think." "You're bleeding," I said. "I know." She didn't look at me when she said it. The station rolled again, sharper. The stars outside smeared into lines. "Only one of us can do both," she said. "Prep and hold attitude long enough." I didn't answer. The math was already there. She fumbled a latch and swore under her breath. Her jaw tightened. A tremor ran through her arm, and she crushed it against her side until it stopped. That's when I understood how wrong my timing had been. "Sato," I said, slower now. She turned to face me. Up close, her skin had gone gray under the helmet lights. Sweat pooled along her hairline. "You're not going," I said. She smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "You are?" "No." She grabbed my harness and pulled me toward the capsule, harder than she should have been able to. "Listen to me," she said. "We don't both get a shot. You know that." The station rolled again. Worse. Sato pulled me closer, her breath shallow. "I'm bitten," she said. "You know what that means. I'm done." She glanced at the capsule. "You can't stay. This is your only chance." She was right. That didn't make it easier. The checklist finished scrolling. The capsule chimed, ready. Sato let go of my harness and wiped her hand on her suit. It came away red. "There isn't time anymore," she said. The station creaked as it corrected late again. I understood then, not what she planned, just that the window was already closing, and only one of us was going to fit through it. The station crossed a line without announcing it. One moment the roll was slow enough to predict. The next it wasn't. The stars outside the viewport slid faster, no longer smooth arcs, but short, jerking streaks. Thrusters fired late, Not wrong, just late. Every correction chased the last mistake. An alarm pulsed orange and stayed there. I was already moving when the capsule bay light shifted to emergency amber. No discussion, no eye contact. Motion had replaced agreement. The checklist scrolled on its own, half the steps already marked complete from Sato's earlier work. I grabbed the handholds and pulled myself into position, forcing my breathing steady. Read, act. Don't think past the next line. Sato floated in behind me and slammed into the bulkhead harder than she meant to. She caught herself and didn't apologize. Her movements had lost their margin. Too much force. Too little correction. "Straps," I said. She nodded and reached for them. Her fingers closed too hard, knuckles whitening through the suit fabric. She threaded the first restraint and yanked it tight enough to make me grunt. "Too tight," I said. She stared at the buckle like it had offended her. Then she loosened it by a fraction. Not enough. I didn't argue. The station rolled again. Faster. Another alert chimed. Structural load approaching tolerance. Automatic systems began locking out manual inputs, one by one. The panel beside me grayed out options I hadn't finished considering. I keyed one override. It rejected me. Sato laughed once. It came out wrong. Short, sharp. "Doesn't matter," she said. "Keep going." She handed me a tether and missed the clip point twice before finding it on the third try. Sweat floated off her face in small, shaking beads. Her jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jump. The checklist reached final configuration. I hesitated for half a second. That was enough. Sato shoved me backward into the capsule. Not angry, not panicked, just forceful. I caught the frame and tried to push back out. She didn't let me. Her grip locked onto my harness and she hauled me in, strength spiking past what it should have been. I hit the seat hard enough to rattle my teeth. The restraints snapped closed over my chest and legs before I could reach for them myself. "Sato," I said. She ignored my name and went straight to the locks. Manual. Physical. She slammed them home with the heel of her hand. The capsule chimed. Armed. I reached for the release and found it unresponsive. Another alarm cut through the bay. Different tone. Lower. Automatic sequence engaged. The station had decided. Sato floated in front of the capsule hatch, breathing fast. Too fast. Her eyes flicked to the control panel and back to me, tracking numbers I couldn't see from inside. She leaned in close enough that her helmet tapped the glass. "Listen," she said. "When you hit atmosphere, don't fight the spin. Let it settle. You correct too early, you'll tear the heat shield." Her voice wavered at the end. She swallowed and forced it steady. "After splashdown, don't wait for beacons. Get out. Move. Doesn't matter where." I shook my head. "You're coming with me." She smiled. Not kind, not sad, just certain. "No," she said. "I'm not." Her hand drifted into view. The sleeve was dark now, wet at the seam. She didn't look at it. The station rolled again, hard enough that loose tools slammed into the far wall. One bounced off the capsule hull with a dull thud. The countdown appeared on my panel. Automatic, unstoppable. Sato backed away from the hatch. For a second, I thought she might say something else. Something human. She didn't. Her head snapped to the side, sharp and fast, like she'd heard something I hadn't. Her jaw tightened. Her teeth ground together. She stepped back another meter. "Go," she said. The hatch sealed between us with a heavy mechanical slam. The sound traveled through the capsule frame and into my bones. I lost sight of her. The launch charge fired off axis. The capsule tore free in a violent lurch, spinning faster than the stabilizers could correct. My vision tunneled. The restraints dug into my shoulders and thighs, pain blooming where the fabric bit into skin. Through the viewport, the station slid past, wounded and tumbling. One solar array was bent wrong. A dark shape moved along the hull near the bay, fast and uncoordinated. The radio crackled. "Sato," I said. Static answered. Then a burst of noise. Then nothing. Telemetry degraded into unreadable blocks. Orientation data flickered and vanished. The capsule shuddered as it corrected into a rough descent attitude. The ISS shrank behind me, still rolling, still alive. Then Earth filled the window. Distance increased. Systems took over. The capsule did what it was built to do. I did nothing. There was nothing left to do but fall. The capsule shook itself apart on the way down. Not all at once, not violently enough to break, just enough to remind me that nothing built for space is meant to come back clean. Heat bled through the hull in uneven waves. The restraints cut into my shoulders and thighs as the capsule fought to stabilize. Every correction lagged. Every lag stacked stress. The world outside the viewport was fire and noise. No color, no horizon. Just vibration that rattled my teeth and forced breath out of me in short, involuntary bursts. The HUD flickered. Altitude numbers skipped. Orientation data vanished, then returned wrong. The capsule wasn't falling straight. It was rolling. Correcting late, overcorrecting, then letting go again. I tasted blood. Something in my chest cracked when the G-forces spiked. Sharp pain bloomed under my ribs and settled there, deep and constant. I screamed once and didn't recognize the sound. The fire stopped without warning. The parachute deployed off-axis, hard. The capsule snapped sideways and spun. The straps bit deeper. My head slammed back into the seat, and the world went gray around the edges. I stayed conscious, barely. The ground came up fast. There was no landing, just impact. The capsule hit, bounced, rolled. Metal shrieked. Something tore loose underneath and dragged for a few seconds before snapping free. My vision went white and then black, and then back again. Silence followed. Not peace, just absence. I hung in the restraints, breathing shallow, waiting for pain to finish arriving. My ears rang. My hands shook when I tried to move them. The HUD was dead. Smoke seeped into the capsule, thin and bitter. I fumbled for the manual release and missed it twice. before my fingers found the latch. The hatch didn't want to open. The frame had warped. I kicked at it with my boots until something gave. Air rushed in. It smelled wrong. Not clean. Not earth the way I remembered it. Smoke. Rot. Wet soil. Ash. I dragged myself out of the capsule and collapsed onto the ground on my side, gasping. The sky above me was gray. Not clouds. Something thicker. I lay there for a few seconds longer than I should have. That was the mistake. I heard it before I saw it. Footsteps. Fast. Uneven. Too close. I rolled onto my back and saw a man sprinting toward me from the tree line. His clothes were torn. His face was gray and streaked with dried blood. His eyes locked onto me and didn't blink. No hesitation. No fear. I tried to stand and failed. Pain tore through my chest and down my side. I scrambled backward instead, hands slipping in damp soil. He was on me in seconds. I got my forearm up between us just in time. His teeth snapped shut where my throat had been. The force rattled my bones. He clawed at my suit, fingers digging in, nails tearing fabric. I screamed and drove my elbow up into his jaw. Bone popped. He didn't slow. I grabbed a loose rock from the ground and smashed it into his face. Once, twice. Blood sprayed warm across my hands. He kept coming. Head. It has to be the head. I jammed the rock into his temple and drove it in with everything I had left. The third strike cracked his skull. The fourth caved it in. He went slack instantly and collapsed on top of me. I shoved him off and rolled away, retching. Blood coated my hands. My arms shook so badly, I had to press them into the dirt to stop them. The body didn't move. I forced myself to look at his face, milky eyes, jaw slack, no breath. Same rules, same outcome. Movement sounded nearby. More than one. I pushed myself upright, every motion costing more than it should have. The capsule sat behind me, scorched and smoking, visible from far too far away. A beacon to anything that could still move. I couldn't stay. I staggered away from the capsule and toward the trees, keeping low, favoring my side. Each breath burned. My vision tunneled when I moved too fast. Shadows shifted at the edge of the tree line. Shapes moved where they shouldn't. I didn't stop. The forest swallowed me quickly. Light dimmed. Smoke thinned. The ground softened under my boots. Somewhere behind me, something screamed. Not human, not animal. I picked a direction based on cover and kept going. Shelter wasn't safety. It was just the next problem. I disappeared into the trees, bleeding, broken, and alive. For now.